Well, happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Good Monday morning. Hope you guys are all off to a good start. I'm hoping somebody had something happen this weekend that you just woke up this morning and said, I can't wait to share this on the morning call. What do you got? Who's got something? Who had some action
Other
this
than a
weekend?
huge storm that took out our shingles and our fence and a bunch of trees, not much going on, Steve.
You got it that bad, huh?
Yeah, it was. I have a video. It's a very short video because my daughter was scared, but we had a mini. I don't know if they want to call it microburst, whatever, but you could see the spin, and it just came straight at our house. Our neighbor had one at his house. Our other neighbors had it at their house, and there was stuff flying everywhere, shingles coming off roofs, grills getting tossed. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Well, I'm glad you made it through it. No casualties other than personal property, it sounds like. So, Margareta, what'd you have? What do you guys see that
I
hand
am
up?
super excited. My golf course home is under agreement. And those
Fantastic.
things, I'm not used to selling those kind of properties. It's the highest probably point I ever sold or will sell. Let's make that clear. Still under the process, but it looks decent and super hyped up about it because they could take forever. And it's just thank God.
That's great. Yeah, you never know with some of those higher end, it's always great to do luxury or to do the higher end stuff, but that is also the stuff that can't sit for a while. You got to nurture it. You got to get creative. And I know you were working a lot of different angles. Anything in particular that you feel like worked there, or it was just a timing thing? You had the right buyer enter the market. Anything that you want to share with regards to the marketing or the reach out that you did?
Yeah, you know, first of all, and by the way, Steve, I'm having a hard time hearing you. It's like you're super low volume for some reason. For me, maybe it's just me. But I heard you right. Yeah, so I did price it relatively competitively. I thought at that point, inquired from other more experienced agent in that type of price point at a broker's open even. But then as first few showings came in and they're like, it's maybe not as worth as what we were thinking. And we were, and my sellers were pretty understanding and aggressive about, trying to sell it as quickly as possible because they already have another home that they're living in and they can't carry both mortgages. We actually at open house had an offer for 100K under the asking price. So we're like, but maybe we should have taken up because we did reach out to them within like a week and we said, hey, you were actually okay with it at that point? And they said no. So maybe that would never work out. But then we did drop it again quite substantially because we were more of the thought of, we got to price it more what they're willing to take in versus what we really think the market should dictate it to be because we need to get that buyer. The sellers were even trying to say, hey, maybe we should drop some more. I'm like, no, this is like one that Carvana commercial. Hold, we're not dropping this anymore, guys. This is gonna look ridiculous. I know you maybe have more flexibility, but like this is where we hold this. This is spring market, it's been a little bit slow coming, but I think that was the right decision. And I feel like we didn't leave too much on the table. I think maybe we're off by 5K. But hey, considering
So,
the speed of this is a good thing.
yeah, we should talk about this a little bit because I don't think we talk about this too often about how long to hold before dropping prices, right? So this is a good little topic that we can tackle this morning. So how many days on market, Margareta, total before you went under agreement on this one?
Say it again.
How many days on market total before you went under agreement?
Oh, right now I think I'm like at 45.
Okay, so 45 days on. And you did any price drops along the way or no?
Yes. So within 2 weeks after the first offer we had, we did like 50,000, and then we did another 50,000 drops. So they were substantial.
Every 2 weeks?
About, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody want to chat on this? I feel like in a market in New England where things are moving pretty quickly, I think 2 weeks is about enough time before we've probably heard what the market had to say, right? Because at that, unless you have a unique property, so that's kind of what you had here, Margareta, right? Is you've got a unique property, it's on a golf course. When there are unique things, you've really limited the buying pool for maximizing the dollars, right? So there's a different strategy when you've got a 3-bedroom ranch versus a high-end home on a golf course or on a lake or a log cabin or whatever, penthouse on a condo, right? So you can't just say, hey, every 2 weeks we drop. You really got to look at the whole picture, figure out what you got. Does my property stand out for a particular buyer? And if it does, we may need to wait a little bit longer for that particular buyer to come around, right? If you're just a standard 3-bedroom, ranch, there's thousands of those buyers out there. So like if they've all said no, it's probably not going to happen. But if you got a horse property, right, you could take the right horse owner to come along and say, you know what, dang, this is actually a steal at this price for what I'm looking for. So I don't know, does anybody want to elaborate on that? But I think this is an important topic to understand when we're pricing, and then if it's not moving, how do we decide? How do we work with the client? Obviously, the client's timeline is also got to factor in, right? If you've got a client that just is in no hurry, we may extend these timelines. But on average, I think this is kind of the way to feel this out. So anybody want to add something to their thought process when you're...
And just so also to highlight, I had offers like at 600, 650, really low balls. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're not that desperate.
Yeah, and that this is another thing that you've got to decide. Are we that off? Are those actually not low ball offers, but is that market? When you start to see the same offer coming in over and over again, you might start to question your numbers, right? You might want to get a second opinion, talk to somebody else. Maybe that is the market value and you're way off. Maybe those are not low ball offers. Adam, I'll lean on you, and I know you're a heavy lister. Anything else that you're thinking through when you're deciding, should I drop the price or not?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would probably take into consideration is like major holiday weekends. So like, in June, it's typically a lot of graduations. You might have people with busy weekends. So that's the one that comes to mind. Then over the holidays, of course, people are a little bit busier, so you might lose some buyers. So if you're doing price drops in the middle or end of December, I would maybe wait until January. But other than that, in a market like Massachusetts, we pretty much know what's going to happen in the first weekends. So yeah, that's the only other thing I would add.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit there, but yeah, a market that's moving 2 weekends, I think should do it, assuming one of them wasn't a holiday weekend. Then you've got the amount of the price drop, right? So I don't know what people are thinking as far as the amounts. Adam, you got any thoughts there on, okay, it didn't go, how much do I drop? The first thing that comes to mind for me is, did I miss a major pricing bracket, right? So am I at 65, where I feel like 250 is a big number? That is one of those numbers. 300, like if I'm at 310, 300 is probably where I want to go. And most of the MLSs should have the ability for you guys to go put that number in there and see how many extra eyeballs do I get if I move to this number. So before you actually do the price drop, you could have a conversation with your seller. Hey, right now we've got 500 matching clients based on the MLS. If we go from 310 to 300, it brings us to 600 matching, 500 matching. So take a look at that. So hitting major numbers. If you're not on a major number, I don't know, 5%, I just thinking dropping a few $1,000s isn't going to move the needle. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on the amount or what goes into their thought process when you're deciding how much to drop.
Sometimes,
And I
Steve, it's not even about the price that you're going down. Sometimes it's just about getting the eyes back onto that once it falls at the bottom of the pile. I've had it where people are like, no, I don't want to drop. And then I really want them to do something. So I'll beg them to even do a ridiculous $100, which is not ideal. Don't get me wrong. but if it's enough to get me back on the top of people's lists. And again, I haven't had that in a while because if we're going by, Huron and everybody else's like pricing theory, we have the, event pricing, which is a little bit ahead. We have the, market value, and then we have the, you're a dreamer at the end, and it's all expectations.
Yeah, this is a great
When you're
point,
done with
though.
this topic, though, I got a big
Okay, you got something
aggravation.
so just wanted to revisit that and make sure we understand what she's saying there, right? So I'm saying, hey, you've got to have a significant amount because, and the reason I say that, if you're at 335 and you go to 330, like a buyer that was, interested, if they were really interested, they would have made an offer. 330 didn't go, oh, wait, now we got to step to the plate and offer. But Chris's counter to that is sometimes, right, just to get it, the BOM, it gets it back emailed out to people. There's a price drop on this property, right? So if you're thinking from how the system operates, an email just went out and says, hey, I want to get this property in front of all the buyers because the buyers are set up to get a notification in their email or text message or however they're getting their notifications that there's a price change, right? So maybe they somehow missed it or forgot about it. So sometimes just moving the number where you don't adjust it that much, but you're just trying to get the eyeballs can be a really good strategy. So that's a great point. So thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else? Thoughts
I was a little bit
on?
concerned about like the price amount because we did substantially drop like 50 and then 50 pretty quickly. Like the question was, does that look too desperate? But I'd rather be at the right price point that will attract clients, buyers, versus just sit there and look pretty.
I would agree with you. I don't think you have a choice. Like if they need to sell the property, you got to get to the point. But these are parts of the conversations that you got to have at the listing presentation to go, hey, this is what it looks like as far as the comps. Yeah, you want to go 100 grand more, we can, but now we end up with price drops and it does start to look a little bit like, oh man, and now you're kind of setting yourself up. So let's just use some round numbers. We think it's worth 600,000. We put it on for 700,000. It doesn't go. We drop to 650. It doesn't go. We drop to 600. If I'm the buyer, I don't know that I'm coming in at 600 at that point. Right? I'm seeing price drop. This is a desperate seller. Let's try 550. Let's try 575. Right? And so this is why these conversations with the seller are so critical, right? Hey, we can try 700. Here's my fear. If it doesn't go, we are really setting us up for failure. So that's why, unless you've got something that's unique or they really have no timeline and they just need that magic number, that aspirational pricing that Chris was talking about, you really want to be around the right number, or I think you're leaving money on the table. Anybody else on pricing or drops or good?
Steve, I know you mentioned it quickly, but I don't know that most agents understand that you can go into the MLS and do price drops and see how many people. Now, of course, it's only a perspective of those agents who have put their clients in searches for, right from the MLS, not anything like FUB or something, or Ylopo. But it's a pretty cool tool, and obviously, it's a portion of the market, but it definitely helps. You can go by $1,000 increments. You can literally just put a price in, right? So if you're at 615 and you're trying to figure out if you should go to 600 or 605, it'll tell you how many new buyers will see it. So most people probably don't know about that. I just want to make sure we highlighted that.
Yeah, and the other thing that you mentioned there, let's make sure everybody understands, right? A lot of agents just rely on their MLS. That's how they send out their listing alerts, right? So you set up your buyer says, I want, these 3 towns and I want between 500 and 600. I need 3 bedrooms, etc. So you set up the search in the MLS, and the MLS does the email notifications when new properties hit or price drops happen. And then in this scenario, let's say there are 500 matching buyers out there for all the agents. There are 500 matching buyers, and we see that if we drop it by 20,000, we get 700 buyers. Right? So yes, you don't get all of the buyers because maybe, I don't know what percentage, let's say it's 50-50. 50 use the MLS, 50 use their CRM, 50% use their CRM to send out these listing alerts. So if they're using the CRM, you should still see the same jump, right? So if it moved 200 people in the MLS pool, it probably moved another 200 eyeballs on the agents that use their CRM. So yeah, it's critical to understand and to look at when you're trying to make that decision. Stephanie put in here that she uses that to call the agents to let them know about a price drop or open house or new listing. It's a great feature. So yeah, you can also, you can do reverse prospecting if you're going to do a price drop. A lot of the MLSs allow you to send an email to the agents who have matching clients. So if there's something unique going on, or maybe there's a feature about the property, hey, just want to get this, the email would read something like, just want to get this back in front of you. It's a pretty unique property. We just dropped it X. You don't see this in the pictures, but man, it's a whatever. It's got this feature, that feature, the other. So just some stuff to keep in mind. Anybody else about using the MLS as a pricing strategy guide or reverse prospecting, anything along those lines that somebody wants to chime in on how they're utilizing the systems? All right, Chris, it looks like the floor is yours. What do you got?
So it's a frustration, and it is, I have these buyers, and there were 2 open houses that they were going to go to, new open houses that just came to market on Wednesday. And I'm going to preview this by saying, I know that we do get a crazy offer that you just have to accept, or that you have a seller that just wants to accept the first offer through the door. So I do know that there are, reasons for taking an offer. However, both these properties came on Wednesday, one Thursday. Both had open house on Saturday. The buyer had called me, and then we had decided they were going to go to the open house. And more so because I was out straight, I'm not going to lie. But anyways, both of them canceled the open house. Like, this is just 2 out of the 20 they were going to, don't get me wrong. But both of those agents canceled the open house on Saturday and accepted an offer. And I called both those agents. And one of the agents, I said, like, so I saw you accepted an offer already and you canceled the open house. Was it crazy over asking? No. Was it cash? No. Like, what part of that did you think was a good idea for your seller to cancel the open house? She had the balls to say to me, I didn't want to work on Saturday. And so I just am blown away by this, because I do Saturday and Sunday open house. I just told Adam I'm getting too old for this, but I do Saturday and Sunday, not because I want to pick up buyers, but because I want to make it easy for my seller. I want to make it easy for those buyers. I want to make it, so accessible that we're not doing a bunch. And I know I probably do too much. But where is the fine line between too much and too little? That's my frustration today.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is what we're up against. This is the industry, and it's just so critical that the consumer understands the difference between full-time professional agents and their buddy that has a license. It's frustrated me forever. You go out, you do a great listing presentation, and hey, Steve, we really loved everything that you had to say, but we're gonna go with our aunt. We just feel like we kind of owe it to her, and it's like, okay, good luck. Adam, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I guess the positive side of this is not all agents are as educated as those on this call. And, if I'm going to make an offer before an open house with a buyer, I might think I need to come in stronger than maybe I do. So it might just be an opportunity for those agents making offers to say, hey, look, maybe we just need to make a strong offer. Let's see if we can shut it down without getting crazy. Because if you have agents like this, where you can kind of pull the wool over their eyes a little bit with a normal offer, that might be to our advantage. So don't just assume, every agent who's holding an open house is going to be as educated as those on this call that say, hey, we obviously, most cases should not accept that offer. Unless there's some great contingencies in there or waived contingencies. So let's use it to our advantage and maybe try and get some properties off the market for our buyers. That's insane that she actually told you that, but let's use it to our advantage.
Well, this is the reason why I've always said you got to get in first. I know it's great to be last, but you got to get your offer on the table. Adam, you're muted if you're still trying to go there. Were you still trying to
Nope,
talk or no?
just trying to make sure you don't hear anything you don't need to.
Okay. So yeah, this is why I've always just been a fan of get to the plate and start the negotiations. If you know your buyer wants this property, get your offer in and start working that listing agent to explain why they should be going with you and putting that fear, that doubt into what those other offers, those other agents, those other lenders might be bringing to the table. Steve.
Well, oh.
So I have a friend agent, and I've noticed that she's constantly canceling open houses. And it's because she got well over asking. So I got my first listing, as many know. And I had the conversation, like, we have an open house coming up this Saturday, and they want to allow showings. It's been a nightmare trying to get them on board with like what we typically do. It went live like Thursday. I'm like, let's do an open house this weekend. They're like, no, we don't want to do one this weekend. I'm like, they want to do it on the 10th. I'm like, it's Mother's Day weekend, so we're not going to do it on Sunday on Mother's Day. Like, it's not a good look. So we're doing Saturday. They're doing showings. Now they're realizing they have 2 dogs and a kid and how crazy that is after school. And they're like, we don't want to do this anymore. They have all these guidelines. I'm like, this is why we should have done the open house this, yesterday and the day before. And we probably would have had a highest and best coming in tomorrow. But I did have the conversation with them, like, we're doing showings before this open house on the 10th. Is there like a crazy number that would be like, shut it down, like we're taking that, like it's outrageous? So we have that number and it's up there, but I couldn't see me in good faith taking, a slightly over asking before an open house and really letting people have the opportunity to bid each other up on it, because I don't think it's in their best interest. I mean, the number they came up with, I'm like, yeah, I mean, if we get that number in an offer, then I would agree, like, let's take it and run, because obviously, as long as it's a clean offer and,
Yeah, my issue with just take the offer because, hey, if they hit the number that you're looking for, we should just do it, is like what Chris was saying before. Well, that's great. The number is only one part of the offer, right? Who's the agent on the other side? What are the other terms involved? Who's the lender that's doing this deal? I need to know all that, because how do I know on Saturday when we do that open house that I don't get that same number with better terms, with a better agent, right? With a better lender, or at least, experienced agent, experienced lender, people that just up the chances that this thing closes. So that's where where Chris is saying, like, how do you not hold the open house? Like, I don't understand, like, the buyer said that they were going to walk if they don't take the offer now. I just don't buy that. They love it that much that their offer's there on Thursday, but on Saturday it's not. I don't know. That's hard for me to believe. Chris.
Also, another big thing is like these same people, and it's my cousin and her wife. So, I mean, trust me, like, she's like, God, Chris, I thought you're such a great freaking agent, but like, at one point she's like, well, what I really want is this house, but this house is not holding any showings till Saturday. So let's just put an offer in on this house on Thursday because we want to be first offer in. But even if we're accepted and then we like that one on Saturday, we'll just pull out with inspections. Now, again, I'm a good agent, so I'm saying, hell no, that's not how we play in the sandbox. But there are agents playing that way in the sandbox, so that they are going to be that first offer in, as you're speaking of, on Thursday, but their buyer may very well have a plan A that's not coming live until Saturday or Sunday. And that's where we're getting back on markets. Like, this is the whole thing. If everyone
Yeah.
could just be on this damn phone call.
Put the SOS out. I mean, here's the other thing, right? If you have an educated buyer that understands you can back out because of inspections, right? And the buyer says, you know, I don't care that plan A doesn't come to market. I want an offer on this. And, you know, I don't know, you're in a tough spot as an agent. You got to do what your client is asking you to do. Client's saying, put the offer in. So, Lori.
So I'm just thinking, as a list agent, and there's, a lot of list agents on this call, when you're getting offers in, are you like immediately sending it to your seller? Because I feel like that stresses my sellers out. So, I get an offer and I let them know, hey, look, we have offers coming in. I have one in hand. When we have more than one, then I'm going to call for a deadline. And then we're going to sit and review them together. I feel like if I'm one by one telling them everything about the offer, they're getting super stressed out. And if they give me permission to negotiate them, I can't wait to sit with them and show them the one that was for 409 that I got up to 425 for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like if, you put a listing on, you get an offer, you race to them, and then they want to like accept it right away, and then they cancel the open house. Like, I feel like depending on the listing, I'm not like, approaching them with every offer immediately. We're going to set up an appointment together where we sit and I can review them all and, negotiate them to the highest point. And if I need to speak with them about certain terms, we will, but not every time am I just like forwarding them over. I feel like it gets them really stressed out,
Yeah, I would agree. And I would agree with Chris's comment. I think this is part of that listing presentation. Hey, here's my recommendation, right? My clients in the past have tended to get kind of stressed out every time we get an offer, right? Because we're price aggressive. We know the market. Like, I'm expecting multiple offers, right? So do you want me to send over everyone? Because my experience has been it kind of stresses it out. Or, we can plan, well, we'll just wait. Open house is Saturday. We'll have it, Saturday night. We'll get together. We can review everything, or Sunday, or whatever you guys decide, right? And then just so you're having this conversation with the seller and then coming up with what the strategy is so that everybody's on the same page, right? So hey,
And
I'm
then
educating
I
you,
think it's
Mr.
knowing
Right?
what your seller wants and needs and what their bottom line is. Like, recently I had a listing. I knew what my seller's bottom line is, what he wanted. He told me what he wanted. I knew I could get him what he wanted. We priced aggressively. We got 9 offers. And one of the offers, I got them to come up to where he wanted. And when I went to present to him, he was happy as pie. Of course, we discussed all the terms. And of course, I went back to the certain parties to see if anybody could, come to those terms. But I just feel like if you're sending the immediate offer over, a seller gets all anxious and then they start talking to their friends and then they start calling their, sister and stuff. And then it becomes, this person has an opinion on it. This person has an opinion on it. Where, like, can we just sit together and discuss them all at once, not one by one? And it gets really fucking confusing for everybody, for me, for the seller. Like, just if you really plan the time to sit and review them together, you can go back and negotiate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that agent wasn't, immediately sending that offer over, she could have that open house. She could have got probably an amazing offer for her sellers. Like, what a disservice she did. You know what I mean? Like, she's lazy.
Right, Lori? Right? Preach. And the other thing is, on social media, there's a big thing that says, I canceled the open house. The old Chris would have wrote, yeah, because you were too lazy to do the open house. But instead, I'm bypassing it. But again, perception's reality. So she's like, offer came in and I was able to cancel the open house. Like, that's not a good thing. Just saying.
All right, Steve, your hand's been up. Was it lingering, or did you want to wrap us up?
Yeah. What I think is I'm wondering if this, like, the agent that I have that I'm talking about that does that and does exactly what Chris said, like brags about, hey, I canceled the open house, got it over. With this crazy market where we're seeing, competitive buyers in there, I think she's using that like, hey, we have an open house. If you really want this, like, give us your best, and she's using that to her advantage, I think, to try to get well over, like, hey, if you can hit this point, we're shutting it all down. There's no competition. But like you said, and I've told my sellers, there are lender issues, inspection issue, all these different things that deals fall apart. And I've already prepped them with our first accepted offer may not go to the finish line, so that there's not that disappointment if it happens. That's in our training and all that stuff, to give them realistic, like, we get an offer, it's exciting, but it doesn't mean it's going to closing. And we see a lot of back on market, and they're seeing them as buyers. So I mean, it's just, I really do wish, like Chris said, everybody was on this call and got on the same page, because I am seeing that what I'm doing and what I expect, like, other agents aren't. And then you have other agents that have been in the game 20 years, and they love me because I'm responsive, and they think I've been in this game for decades. And I'm like, oh, I'm new. I'm just on it, and it goes a long way. And I have a guy last Thursday I'm trying to get a hold of, and it's Monday. This agent, I have a cash buyer. I'm like, do you want money or not? It's
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling.
Well, I heard it a couple of times today. I would love nothing more than for you guys to share the show. Take the link, get it out there. We'd love to grow this. I love doing this with you guys. It was great back and forth. I think everybody just heard today just a few different angles. And the other thing that's just kind of nice to hear is why certain things might be happening. How the hell could they cancel the open house? Well, here's why it might be happening. Right. So just to kind of see both sides, hey, I had a buyer and this is why we did this, or this is why we did that. Like, it's always tough to understand the perspective of that seller, of that agent, of that buyer. But having these discussions really hopefully opens your mind to the different things that might be happening in everybody's lives. So appreciate you all. Have yourselves a great Monday, and we will do it again tomorrow morning. Take care.